back, guys. So here we have a different one for you today. One that I was umming and ahhing if I was ever going to do, but I thought what I want to do on this channel is to be open and honest with everyone. It's picking up a good amount of subscribers, a lot more people are following on, and I always want to be open, real and honest about where I'm at, what I'm doing within my preps, etc. Or what I have done. And that's what this one's going to be all about. So I'm going to touch upon the prep cycle. What do we do on prep to achieve the level of condition that the ultimate goal was, obviously, and still is, to get an IFBB Pro card. So you can kind of, within this episode, see the different compounds that were used. I might touch upon here or there why they were used or whatever. I'm not going to go into anything like dosages or anything like that, because that for me is quite silly and quite dangerous to do. All I'm trying to do here is just give an honest account of what things I've used throughout the prep and what they were used and why they were used at different points. And again, this is something where I absolutely don't want people to copy this and just be like, right, well, you did that, so I need to do that. This is a case of understanding where you're at in relation to your goals. What is the goal here? Now, for me, the goal is to try and get professional status. And that's very, very hard to achieve. And it's something that, unless you're an absolute freak, you're not going to do it naturally. And become an IFBB Pro is a natural. And I kind of accepted that. But with what we're doing, it's making sure that we do it in, I hate to say it, it's not healthy, but the most, in the best way possible. So minimizing the negative impacts that potentially some of these compounds can have. And I'll touch upon one by one the compounds that we used, and also the ancillaries as well. Things like lipolytics, fat burners and stuff like that to help as well with the prep process. So we'll go through them one by one, and hope you can take a lot from this. But alongside that as well, I'm going to be training today, so we'll take you through a little bit of a chest workout. I'm going to start with compounds. So compound one, everyone's going to know this, testosterone. So this was a base for the stack design. It's going to be the base for 99% of stacks. In terms of the actual ester that we ran, it was an amphate. One of the longer esters, you've got an amphate and cypionate. We ran an amphate. One thing that's quite common throughout preps is as you get later down the line during a prep, some people may like to switch to shorter esters, and that can be quite useful to control estrogen. We, however, just stayed at a low level of testosterone throughout the full duration of the prep, and that was where we were at. So compound number one, testosterone and amphate. Second compound, Masteron. Now this is a DHT compound. Yes, we're going to get the great benefits in anabolic steroid, of course. We're going to get strength gains from this. It's going to help preserve lean tissue. That is the number one goal here when utilizing these anabolic agents. Great thing about Masteron as well though, it has great anti-estrogenic effects. So it can help offset that estrogen and making sure that we can keep that under control without having to absolutely throw in an AI into the cycle from day one. Now, I've got nothing against utilising things like that. They're in there for a reason, but it can help mitigate the use of that, which is a great reason as well why it's such a good compound to utilise in any kind of stack design when we're looking at progressive stacks from just testosterone only. So Masteron, the second compound that I use in the stack design. Third compound, Primo, also known as Primo. So this compound as well, very, very similar actually to Masteron. Use both on this. You could realistically set your stack up, so you could go one or the other. We had a full kind of DHT milligram that we were going to hit, and we hit it through utilizing both compounds. Again, like I said, similar to Masteron. The personal effects of when I'm utilizing it, it helps keep me super, super full. I feel really full when I utilize that in comparison to Masteron, which is why I like to use it coincided with it. And as well, if you are using them both together, it can limit costs, but it's a very, very expensive compound. But this was the third compound that made up the stat design. Like I said at the start, I'm not going to go through the actual total milligramage. I will say this though, it was low, much, much lower than probably what people think. But what we were doing is making the most out of every single thing that we were using. It's not about absolutely trying to maximize everything. Your body's only going to utilize so much of these compounds to get the most out of it. Push it too hard, that's when you're going to run into problems. So that was the third compound that we used within the stat design. Fourth compound that was used. God, this is making me feel like a proper druggie. I'm not really, I promise. This was used right at the very end. So this compound is called Windol. Great compound that can be used at the back end of a prep when strength is diminishing quick, or if it is diminishing quick. This can be put in, you could even opt for this realistically, or something like an Anabolic. Great thing about Windol is I do feel like it has a good cosmetic effect. When you are to the bone peeled, you can start to see that come through. So this was a compound used right at the very end. You're talking 3 weeks out, right at the end when we were really sort of, food was low, expenditure was high, body fat levels were low, performance retention was everything at that point. So it's put in there to help preserve that. So that's compound number 4 that was used during my contest prep. Got one more to go. One more to go. Final anabolic that was used, Halotin. This was used right at the end again. It's a compound you can't be running for a long period of time. Very, very harsh, but it's put in there again solely to preserve strength within the gym on that final week. And again, all kind of anecdotal stuff this, but can have a real positive cosmetic impact. Promote a nice dry look if you are to the bone. I felt the difference personally when I used it. And I really do like it as a compound if it's needed. At the point that I was at in prep, it was needed. We knew we could get drier. We knew that was something we were pushing for, so it was used. And yeah, it worked pretty well when we did utilize it. So in terms of the actual anabolics, that's everything. That's everything I use. So you probably think, what? No, the magic trend? No trend? No. There was no trend. I'll talk about this now because it was actually put in very, very early on in the press, but pulled pretty much instantly because the impact it was having on sleep, and as well the impact it had on blood work in regards to raising prolactin. That came back as a high score, so straight away that was out. 19 more compounds that were out then, and with it as well the psychological impact. So I'll touch upon now as we go on the lipolytic, and there was a lipolytic as well, or a fat burner, natural fat burner in there that is commonly used, but I don't like to utilise it solely because what it does to me psychologically. And that was another reason why we didn't utilise Tren, is because the impact psychologically, I just don't like the way I feel when utilising it, particularly on prep. Off season, slightly different, but on prep, I just don't like the way it makes me feel. And if there's a compound that you're using and you don't like the way it makes you feel psychologically, don't use it. If it affects sleep, don't use it. If it affects appetite, digestion, all these different things, then again, appetite, digestion less so, but if you're using something that is psychologically impacting you, on a prep negatively, just pull it out, So again, that was the reason why, and people will probably say, oh, lying, you have to use that. You don't have to use anything. With the stat design we chose, it was a very, very simple stat design, a very, very easy stat design to put in, and it wasn't abusive by any means whatsoever. So yeah, that's a breakdown of what was used throughout my contest prep from an anabolic standpoint. Next up, touch upon the lipolytics and the ancillaries that we used as well. Now we're going to talk about some of the additional things that I use on my prep. So lipolytics and ancillaries, these are supporting drugs that we use during the prep to help primarily aid fat loss really. Number one being growth hormone. Now growth hormone was used, for me it's something I like to use the majority of the time, not only just from a fat loss perspective and help keep me lean in an off season, but the impact it can have from a therapeutic standpoint in regards to joint health, skin, all that good stuff. So growth hormone was used during the whole prep and was pulled right at the very end. Growth hormone and particularly with me, certain individuals more so than others, but particularly with me, I can hold a little bit of water on it. So pulled out quite early, around 2 weeks out, when the majority of fat loss was done. And but that was one of the additional compounds that was used during the prep. It's a obviously non-anabolic steroid. Alongside this as well, another fat burning agent used was injectable Halotin. Now this is not kind of a underground drug that you can use. Anyone can use this, you can source it anywhere really. And this was used again first thing in the morning to help aid fat loss. Alongside this as well, clenbuterol was used. It can help obviously utilize fatty acids when we're obviously first thing in the morning. What we want to do is make sure that we are, for me anyway, straight in the morning, driving that deficit point through cardiovascular activity. For me, that sets me up perfect throughout the day. You don't have to do it first thing in the morning. For me, I like to do it first thing in the morning, and utilizing these drugs are going to help in regards to my performance aspect, but also in terms of driving fat loss through when I'm at rest. So utilizing clenbuterol is going to help enhance our metabolic rate just when we're just walking around and just doing things on a day-by-day basis. You'll notice when you utilize clenbuterol initially in particular, your resting heart rate will increase. We're essentially just going to be burning more calories at rest, and the lipolytic impacts that clenbuterol and cardiovascular performance impacts it can have are well known, and as well quite recently it's known to have an impact in regards to muscle retention as well. So it's a great little compound we can use across all aspects really. So clenbuterol in there, injectable Halotin. Something that I didn't use and I'll put within this kind of realm, something that wasn't used was your himbine. Your himbine is something that I'll use with my clients if they get along with it, they don't mind using it, because it can have some positive impacts on fat loss, but I absolutely will not use it for myself. The impact again psychologically it has on me is pretty rubbish. I feel pretty rubbish when I take it, anxiety through the roof, and again I'll never use it again on a prep. So that's something that wasn't used at all, but is often used again to help supplement with fat loss. So from a lipolytic standpoint, those are some of the key compounds that we use alongside obviously the androgens. And then finally, what else was used? T3 and T4. Now, these were put in solely pretty much quite early on throughout prep. Now, it's not something you absolutely need to do early on throughout prep. What can happen with the thyroid as we get leaner and leaner and leaner, we can see that being down-regulated over a period of time. So it almost makes sense if you're assisted to put something in there to help support that later down the line. Now, with me, I had a blood test come back, which basically said my thyroid was underactive, which is the last thing you want really on a contest prep. So straight away we supplemented with T3, T4. That was in there just to help keep my levels at what they should have been. So again, those were certain things that we used throughout prep, and they were action based on blood work. That wasn't just something we just threw in there. I would never just throw something like that in just for the sake of it. But again, like they were action through blood work, and we knew that was a potential issue, so we had to action upon that straight away. So yeah, that in a nutshell, everything that I utilise throughout my prep. I hope you can take something from that and just understand what I use. Now, this is absolutely me saying do not use what I use and just think, right, I just need to copy that, because trust me, you don't. This is something that was built up through years and years and years. This is something that warrants that usage, basically because of the goal at hand. I wanted to become a professional, I still do, a professional bodybuilder in essence, a professional men's physique athlete. To do that, you're going to have to take it to a certain level. You're going to do everything you can to get to that goal. These little tools are going to help me get there. So that's why I utilise them. And it can give you understanding of some of the things that are used through bodybuilders trying to get to where they want to get to throughout their prep. So again, hope you can take a lot from what I just spoke about. We'll finish off the workout now for you so you can see, get a crazy ass chest pumps finish. There we have it, guys. Session wrapped up. Bit of both there. Training, a bit of talking about infamous drugs. But no, I think like I'm not going to come on here and say, right, that's what you should do for your prep, that's how you operate on a prep, because majority of people, everyone has individual response, which is why it's so important. I say to anyone, if you're ever considering going down that route, make sure you do it with a coach in your corner or someone who knows what they're doing, someone who knows the repercussions of certain things that you're doing and knows how to restructure things accordingly based off response. It's really, really important that people don't just go at it kind of blind. When I made the decision that I was going to go down that route, I did it with the best support that I possibly could. I made sure I got regular blood work, and that is so, so important. You can see a lot of things that I'm talking about in terms of with compound usage, they're used based off the back of what blood work has said, which is really, really important, so you don't kind of mess yourself up. I'm not saying there's a healthy way of doing things, because there isn't, but there's definitely a way where you can minimise risk, and that should always be the way. If you want longevity in the sport of bodybuilding, that should always be the way you go about it. And you should look to do it to achieve a certain goal. It shouldn't just be done to be abused year round to the point where you become addicted to utilising these things, because that's when it gets dangerous. But yeah, I hope that gives you an insight in terms of certain things that are used throughout contest prep, and that goes just for men's physique, but it also goes for bodybuilding as well. Everyone seems to think that like, oh, men's physique don't use anywhere near as much as bodybuilders and stuff like that. I kind of beg to differ, to be honest with you. I think food consumption within different phases is always going to be totally different. And I think with a bodybuilder, you're just utilising these things more often than not longer, or you're an individual who responds better and you're able to build more on less probably. But as well, like as you progress to the higher ends of bodybuilding, absolutely, people are going to be pushing things to the max. And the big guys are big for a reason. They're not going to use next to nothing. But I think what you should always be doing is, if you're looking to go down this route, definitely start minimalistic approach first. Then from there, if it's your first ever prep, you should still be thinking minimalistic approach. As in when you start to get a grasp of where you are in the sport and you want to compete at higher levels and you want to take those higher accolades, that's when you're probably going to need to be like, right, maybe I need to utilise X, Y, and Z compound on my next cycle going into prep or whatever it may be. So I hope you can understand where I'm coming from with this video, give you an insight. And again, there's going to be far more content coming. You can see I'm posting a lot of different stuff now, training stuff, day in the life stuff, full day of eatings, some challenges in there as well. There's loads of different stuff on the way. There's a lot of stuff that I've got planned this year as well, travel wise. There's other things personally that I've got planned. There's a thing at the end of the year which is going to be really important for me and my progression, that I'm actually going to take you on board with as well, which is going to be quite personal, but I want to show it to you guys as well, because a lot of people have probably been through the same thing. So again, that's all to come. It's all to look out for. So a lot more to come for the channel. Again, thank you for listening, guys, and remember, if you're not already liking, subscribing, commenting, making sure that you do that stuff, because it only helps grow the channel and grow the videos as well. So tune in next time. Catch you then.